Today we're going to go through a video of the periodic maintenance requirements for Tempeff ERVs. This video covers the models RG 7500, 9500, 12,000, 15,000, and 18,000. So take a look at your rating plate, and if it has one of those models on here, this video will cover the requirements for those models. So the first thing we want to do, if you haven't already, is turn the unit off. This will close all the dampers. Now, depending on your model, this may take a minute for the dampers to close. But once they do, what we want to be looking for, first off, is the cam alignment. So on each upper corner we have a cam, and what we're looking for first off is when the unit's closed and the damper's off, is that shaft aligned right down the center of that cam. This is a critical first step, and we want to inspect both cams to make sure that when the blades are closed, those are in alignment. If you find that they're not in alignment, the first step to do is get that in alignment, and that's done by adjusting the end switches, which you can just use simple needle nose pliers to bend the end switches up and down so that they stop, or the cam stops, right when that shaft is in alignment. So next what we want to do is just take a look at the position of the cam. Now, the normal position is with it spaced out just a little bit away from the back of the plate there. If when you're doing your inspection you find that this cam has worked its way back towards this plate, that's typically a sign that something's out of alignment. There's something causing this cam to work its way back, so we need to find that cause and correct it. In the meantime, if it has worked its way down, you simply have to undo the set screws here and move it back out to where we want it to be. So while we're here, just check these set screws, make sure they're tight, and then we'll move on. Next step is just to check for excessive wear in each joint. Now to do this, you'll need to turn the unit back on so that the damper blades loosen up. So if you're doing that and you find there's excessive motion as you twist these, that may be a sign that they're worn out. Generally speaking though, in normal application, we don't expect excessive wear with normal operation. As you're here, just take a look at the joint, and if it needs greasing and is equipped to be greased, a quick shot of grease there at periodic intervals is recommended. So then we move on to the other joints, and again just simply checking, make sure there's not excessive wear in these joints. So each joint, these ones are a little bit hidden back here, we want to take a look at those joints there. You know, is everything nice and tight and no sign of cracks or any other areas of concern. And again, each joint, if equipped, quick shot of grease is recommended. Next, what we want to do is just make sure that nothing's moved in since the last inspection. So from the factory, this should have been marked with just a Sharpie marker. These are the alignment marks we use. So quick inspection again has this moved. If the unit you have does not have these marks, once you're confident everything's in alignment, it's a good idea just to do a quick Sharpie mark across, so that next time you come to inspect you can see at a quick glance whether anything's come out of alignment. So again, as we come across here to one of these other cams, you'll see your alignment mark. If you come down to the bottom here, back and around, you'll see our alignment mark right across there. Next, what we want to inspect is the rotation of the damper motors. So down at the bottom here, what we see is two switches. The bottom switch is your off in the middle, manual and auto mode, so if you're running it by BMS, it'd be auto. On top of it here, what we have is the motor test switches. These are purely a test function switch. When they're in the middle, it's in normal operation, but if you switch them one way or the other, it'll test one damper motor or the other. So if you turn it to the right, it'll test the right damper motor. So what we see is the damper rotating continuously. You should hear the damper blades closing. So basically this is just a visual and audible inspection. Is there any unusual movements in the linkage as it goes about its cycle? Do we hear any binding, any unusual noises? It should be relatively smooth. You shouldn't see anything out of the ordinary going on. So the other moving part that we're going to inspect is just the bearings that are on the front here. So again, as we do our switching and rotating, what we're just going to look for is any unusual sounds. Everything looks smooth. Yeah, that's really about it. So again, if it's equipped, a shot of grease is advisable. If it's not, it's a sealed bearing, so no greasing is required on those types. So now if you come back and around to the back side, you'll be able to access this through the heat exchangers or other access points. Again, we'll get to see the motor. You should be able to hear, relatively smooth, quiet operation, no unusual noises, bearing or otherwise. And then we'll see also a normally closing damper blade here, so you see it moving back and forth. Again, it closes firmly. Don't see any indication of binding or other problems. Once we've gone through the operational portion, just to see how everything's rotating, we just want to do a visual inspection of how the damper blades themselves are closing. So an ideally adjusted blade will be very firm, but not show any gaps in the corners here. So again, you can just push on it. You see there's a little bit of movement there, not very much. So it's very firm, but we don't want it to be too tight. If it's too tight, that can cause problems upstream of bolts breaking, or even these can break due to an over tight blade, or some of the rods may break as well. So if you do ever see a broken bolt somewhere in your inspection, that's typically a sign of an over tightened damper blade. If you ever do need to adjust the blades, they're done at this point here. These nuts just need to be loosened off, and then you can move this blade forward or back depending on where you want it to be to get the ideal blade tightness. So again, as part of your visual inspection of the blades, just take a look here. Is there anything unusual noted? Is there anything broken? Is it anything come apart? Again, it's very visual. Is there anything loose showing up that you wouldn't expect to see? If everything looks in one piece and tight, then that's a big part of maintaining the Tempeff system. As far as some of the electrical things to look for, every unit comes with two temperature sensors, GT1 and GT2. Now up here we have the recommended set points for those. Now again, every application is a little bit different, so your application may require different set points. But these are only in play if you have the switch here in manual mode. So that's if it's to operate as a standalone system. These can also be used if the BMS does go down and you need to still operate the unit. So you can go into manual mode and the unit will still function. So just checking the set points of these is advisable. If they are in play, just make sure they are where you want them to be. And the other one is just taking a look at the overload and contactors. So are the contactors pulling in when you want them to be? That's just a manual test, but basically it just shows as the contactors get pulled in. And then the overload, so if you ever do have a fault, for some reason the damper's not opening, check the overloads here. If there's excessive binding, these may break or blow. So resetting them and then finding out the cause of that binding is very important. So that covers the basics of periodic maintenance for your Tempeff ERV unit. As you can see, the overall requirements are very basic. The key takeaways are alignment is very important. So are things stopping where they should stop? And is there any binding in the damper linkage or blades? And then periodic greasing as applicable.